Okay, so we're going to go over the genocide lesson plan today, or the lesson. That's the one for the standard 6, 7, and 8. So, how did you think the lesson went?
I think the lesson went very well. The anticipatory set that we went through that you showed with the video with Rwanda and how that process occurred set the table for the activity and what the expectations were in terms of being able to identify people, groups of people like victims and perpetrators, bystanders, supporting groups and things like that. So I think that the question set in the video that you used to introduce it went well and matched up with the activity.
Yeah. So how do you think the students did with and how do you think they understood and got a lot of information out of the?
I do. I think the fact that we'd already covered the Holocaust by the time we get to the kind of the wrap-up activity for the unit with genocide in general, kind of helped them have some background knowledge and an understanding of not just what the term was, but the fact that we're talking about what could be, just a government, a group of people perpetrating against thousands and even millions of victims. I think they understood the gravity of the topic and what it was about and what the intended learning target was in comparison to today's world. How things like this still go on, and they may not hear it because they're not informed by reading the news or listening to the news, and that kind of just shock on their face when we talk about the fact that today's world there are still events like this going on, and how we kind of haven't really seemed to learn our lesson about it yet.
Well, that was kind of the way I was too, because I know they were kind of shocked. A lot of them were kind of shocked when they realized that there was still one of those genocides that was, that was going on, because like you said, it's not really talked about that much.
And I think part of our job as history teachers, especially with the conceptual teaching model that the district moved to this year, like every topic, I don't know what phrase I'm looking for, not really purpose, but like the ideal goal is that every topic we teach, the kids are going to find a way that it's still relevant today. Like in 2019, this is happening, or this has happened recently. Yeah. So it connects to the way their world works now. These events from, the 40s and earlier and more recent, the 90s, 2000s, like how they're affecting the world still, and countries and groups of people. Yeah. And it's a cycle. It repeats itself. And I think a lot of the kids understood that. They kind of, when I saw the conversations that they had, not just during that activity and in the video, but after, they realized that, a lot of this history that we're looking at, and especially in this tolerance unit, it's part of like an everyday lesson of life that they have to live, or they have to watch other people live. And, it was eye-opening for them. And I think that was a good aspect of the activity.
So since this was a lead up to their main project for the students, the Holocaust project, do you think this lesson really helped the students in getting prepared for that project?
I do. The basis of the project, we kind of took a step back from the wrap-up activity in the unit, which is genocide across multiple ethnic groups, and we brought it back to what we started with, which was the Holocaust and the Jews and the Germans, the Nazi Party. And I think that it just kind of helped them build a better project because they had more familiarity with everything from, like I said, those terms of victim and perpetrator, to being able to analyze data and numbers and understand why sometimes numbers in this instance and things like that are, they can't totally be exact. That's, I think some of the students, when they were doing research, they're saying, I kind of have the same question here, but the numbers are different. They're not lining up. Why is that? And we had to look at sources and things like that. And that's what they had to do in that genocide activity. They had 6 or 7 sources that they had to read through and different presentations of the information. So I think that helps skill build to get them to what they needed for the project.
I definitely think that the readings really helped the students understand what some other societies, like with the Jewish in Nazi in Germany, what they had to deal with, where before I think they didn't really understand as much about, what, like in Rwanda, the Christians and the, and the non, or the Sudan, the Christians and the Muslims, type of thing.
And I think for them, one of the big takeaways of this unit, and that kind of overarching main essential question of, how do cultural groups respond to events that may or may not, that may benefit or may be detrimental to groups of people or individuals, organizations. I think that they walked away with an understanding, but also still questioning why, as a government, as a country, as a worldwide people, why do we still allow this to happen? Yeah. Why do we still do this to each other when we've got countless examples of unjust persecutions and executions and millions and millions and the numbers just add up. And I think they just kind of were walking away thinking, how do we still let this happen? And do we still turn a blind eye if it's not our country, our people? Is it kind of like, oh, let them figure it out for themselves, and then we come in when it's too late? And that's kind of what that activity showed, is that so many people died before other groups, NATO or other groups and countries stepped in to help and give aid. It was just far too late. And so I think that's one of the things that they look at now, anywhere from like the hurricane response to the immigration crisis at the border, like how are we reacting to other groups of people that are in peril or that are in need, and why are we so slow to give them the help that they need?
Yeah, that's kind of the one I think is that this kind of showed the kids how certain groups are treated in certain areas, like with ours, the immigrants. It kind of showed them that, hey, there's other countries out there that are doing the same stuff as we are. That's still stuff going on today about it. But it kind of brought it together, because now they kind of realize, oh yeah, even in today we treat some people different than others. In some countries will treat people different. Yeah. I think that kind of helps them understand.
And I think a few of the kids, they pose the question of, are we quicker to assist countries and groups of people where we stand to benefit from them doing well, or from them being helped? Like they kind of they're seeing that sometimes that response is quicker when it's a trade partner, or it's a group of people where the beliefs are the same. Yeah. Or, they're considered to be like on our team almost. Yeah. Is the response slower when the group of people being persecuted or executed or whatever
are different than us,
are not only different, but I don't want to say this phrase, but I can't think of it. They don't really bring much to the table that America as a country or people are going to benefit from. They were asking, is that a reason? And I think that's something that we were able to turn towards some of them digging deeper into their own questions and trying to find their own answers. That wasn't something that we answered for them. We kind of helped and guided and gave them a direction, but it was up to them to try to find out the answer that they think was appropriate for their question.
So do you think by looking at the kids and their assessments and stuff, through their assessment stuff, that they learned a lot from this lesson?
I do. Again, every lesson that we are going through, and every unit in this conceptual teaching model, throughout the course of X amount of weeks, that conceptual question is always the same. It's always in the unit of tolerance is, how do a group of people get to a point where they're no longer respected, they're no longer cared for, and I think that through doing this activity, especially, they got multiple examples in multiple time periods and decades throughout history, but it's always the same. There's a fundamental difference between Group A and Group B. The group that is in power or gains power or has the most power is the one that is doing the damage to the other one. And usually without assistance from an outside source, that second group is always going to be in a position of weakness or being perpetrated against. And to see them walk away with that understanding, I think, just showed that the goal and the target were hit for this.
Well, I know that there was a few questions that I got from some of the students, like with the Rwanda one, where they were confused at how it ended, because they're like, well, because of it didn't really end. It went, from the one group persecuting the other group, and then at the end, the group that was being persecuted ended up being persecuting the group that was persecuted them. The two groups, they kind of flip flopped, and I think, and some of the kids were a little confused at first about how, some of them and some of their answers were like, well, this is the one that hadn't ended yet. And then I'd explain to them, like, no, it has ended. It's just the other group is starting to persecute the other group now. So I kind of thought that was, pretty unique, that, how they picked up, some of the kids picked up on that. They're like, type of how the one group was the kind of the bully, and then the other group, and then they ended up being the bully afterwards.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I'd say that's pretty much about it. Isn't it?
All right.